In this video, you'll learn about exactly what to look for when purchasing a violin. If you haven't met, hi, I'm Megan. I'm a violinist and teacher. I've been playing the violin for over 20 years. I have my bachelor's and master's degrees in violin performance, and I am Suzuki trained. If you're enjoying my videos, the biggest thing you can do for me is just smash that subscribe button. It really means more than you know. And if you're interested in working with me more closely, you can check out the description for all the different ways to do that. Purchasing a violin for the very first time can be super overwhelming, and it can be hard to know exactly what to look for, especially if you're a beginner. So in this video, I'm going to share exactly what you should be looking for when you are looking for a violin in person versus online. So let's start with in person first. Well, really this applies to both versions, but the very first thing that you need to do before even going to a shop, before even looking online, is decide on your budget. I recommend having a budget range. So for example, between $1,000 to $2,000. This is going to already help you narrow down your search. Plus, there's nothing worse than falling in love with an instrument and finding out that you can't afford it. Also, please remember that just because you feel like you have like a low budget, that does not mean that you can't find a great instrument. People are always shocked when they hear that I bought this violin. Well, my mom bought my violin for me for only $1,500. It's gotten me through 2 degrees of music school and served me as through my career as a professional musician. You can find a good quality violin in any price range. Second thing, which applies if you are looking in person versus online, is do not put a time limit on yourself. Now, obviously, I know this is not sometimes unavoidable, like maybe your violin breaks or like you really just want to get started as soon as possible. I totally get that. But if you are on like a time crunch, on a deadline, you are going to be more likely to settle for an instrument that you don't really love. So take your time, try out several. The right one will come along. So when you're looking for a violin in person, you want to make sure that there are as many control variables as possible. So what do I mean by this? Basically, on each instrument that you try, you want to be using the same setup, so the same shoulder rest or lack of shoulder rest and the same bow. This helps ensure that whatever differences you're hearing are a result of the violin and not because of your bow or your setup. So don't be afraid to bring in your shoulder rest, bring in your bow. That's actually like super normal and you should do that. Obviously, the first thing that you want to pay attention to is just like the body of the instrument. You want to make sure that there are no cracks. You want to make sure that the varnish is still intact. And actually, you can see my violin here down at the bottom has some scratches. I remember when I was buying it, my teacher had told me that the person that had it before me was probably a guy who put it in their lap and it scratched on their belt buckle. Well, I guess it didn't have to necessarily be a guy, but that's what she said at the time. So you just want to inspect it for, like I said, any cracks or just cosmetic things. Not to say if it has a scratch or whatever, it can't be good, but you just want to be aware of that. Maybe they'll even knock down the price for you a little bit. Next thing is that you want to obviously play it. So if you are super beginner and you've never played before, you can ask the people at the violin shop to play the violins for you. When you play it, you want to make sure you're doing a variety of things. Obviously, you want to make sure that you are playing on all 4 strings, duh, but you also want to make sure that you're playing in both the low and the high registers. So again, even if you're like kind of beginner and you're not like, you haven't played really up high yet, just try to go like, just like test some notes up high on each string to hear how they sound. Also, while you are testing the violin, I really recommend recording yourself. One, so that you can share it with your teacher or a friend if you are stuck between 2 violins, for example. But then 2, so you can hear how the violin sounds to the audience. Violins definitely sound different underneath your ear, so it's good to have that like unbiased snippet of what the violin sounds like. In addition to playing on every register, you want to try to find the harmonics. If you're a beginner, you could just try something like this. where you just lightly rubbing or lightly moving your finger up and down the string. You want to make sure that the harmonics sound clear. Also, if you can, you want to try to tune the instrument with both the fine tuners and the pegs. You want to make sure that both of them are moving smoothly and they're not getting stuck. Finally, you need to check for wolf tones. So wolf tones are not your fault. Wolf tones have to do with the instrument itself. Now, I'm not 100% sure of the science behind it, but I'm pretty sure that wolf tones are caused when some part of the instrument is touching another part that it shouldn't be. So again, it's due to the instrument, it's due to the maker, not due to you. I don't really have wolf tones on my violin, so it might be a little bit hard to show you, but maybe I'll insert a video here. Wolf tones usually happen on the G string on the note C. But it could be a good idea to just test all of the notes. Even that high C. I have a little bit of a wolf there, never mind. That you're not hearing those wolf tones because you like I said, you can't get rid of that. Like, it's happened with the violin. If you find one that you like, most shops will let you take it home for like a week or two and try it out, live with it, and help you, come to your decision. Fun fact, when I got this violin, it was actually one of the very first violins that I tried. My mom and I just stopped in a shop on a whim and I just tried them. I fell in love with it. My mom bought it for me on the spot and he's still with me here today. Yeah, it's a he. So now if you're buying a violin online, it is a lot trickier. So if you do have shops in your area, that is going to be your best bet. However, I know that not everyone does. The first tip is please, please, please do not buy from Amazon. I know it's tempting, I know they're cheap, but really you get what you paid for. Also, a lot of Amazon violins come with the bridge not set up, which can be really frustrating and annoying to try to do yourself, especially if you're a beginner. So the shop that I recommend is Fiddlershop, and I'm going to leave a link to them in the description. But some things that you need to look for are, one, you most likely want a violin outfit. A violin outfit means just that it comes with the bow, the case, the shoulder rest, and probably a bunch of little extra goodies like rosin, maybe a tuner, maybe like a fingerboard sticker, stuff like that. If you already have like a case and a bow and whatever, you might not need to get an outfit, but usually most beginner violins are sold as a violin outfit. Which now that I think about it, that's kind of funny to say that, violin outfit. Should I put like a little dress on my violin? The next thing you want to look for is the type of wood that it's made from. One, just so you can make sure it's actually made from wood, right? Of course, unless you're looking at a carbon fiber violin, but that's a whole different story. But spruce is typically used for the top of the instrument, and then maple is used for the back and the sides, and then of course like the fingerboard and chin rest are ebony. Something that is a plus, but that's not necessarily, it's not like necessarily a need, is having the front and the back both be one piece. Also look for reviews online, try to search for other people who have purchased the violin, playing the violin, and see what they had to say. The thing that I like most about Fiddlershop is just their customer service. So like even if you don't like your instrument, if you have some sort of problem with it, they are excellent at handling that, which I think is really, really important if you're buying a violin online. What other questions do you have about purchasing a violin, either in person or online? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe before you go.